video talks about frequency histograms, cumulative frequency plots, and scatter plots. We're going to carry on from the previous video on frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency distributions. Three important data visuals that you might want to use are frequency histograms, scatter plots, and cumulative frequency plots. We have our MT-CARS dataset, and we've created variables for the mileage frequency, the mileage relative frequency, and the mileage percentage frequency. We've called those mileage.freq, mileage.rel_freq, and mileage.percent_freq. Let's take a quick look at each right now. So mileage frequency is just a frequency distribution. Mileage relative frequency is a relative frequency distribution. And mileage percent frequency, it's percent frequency distribution. First thing we're going to create is a histogram. We're going to create a histogram of the mileage. Using the hist command, we can create a histogram. Our data is going to be the mileage data that we had before. And as before, we're going to have to determine whether or not we want to keep the right endpoint. We're going to choose not to keep the right endpoint in this case. And we see we've got a nice little histogram of our mileage. A couple of things that we might not like here. The title is a bit blah. The horizontal axis label doesn't have a capital, and we don't have the appropriate units. So let's add to our hist command. So again, we're going to use everything that we did before, hist, mileage, comma, right equals false. We're going to put in some other things here. Change the X label, we use the xlab command. We're going to change it to mileage, in brackets, mpg, or miles per gallon. So those are the units. We're going to change our Y label. Our Y label is going to be frequency. And our title is going to be mileage counts. And so you can see our graphic has changed a little bit, looks a little bit better. One thing we might want to do is change the limits of the vertical axis. So I'm going to put in exactly the same thing. I'm going to change the vertical axis using the ylim command. I want to go from 0 to, let's say, 16. And there we go. We've got a little bit more on the y-axis. Okay, so that's the relative frequency histogram. Perhaps now what we want is a scatter plot of this data. And in fact, what we probably don't want a scatter plot of this data. We probably want a scatter plot of the cumulative data. So the first thing we need to do is create a sequence that actually has all of these data points as well as 0 in them. So I'm going to create a variable called mileage cumulative frequency. And unfortunately, I already have that, so I should call it cumulative frequency 0, because we're going to include a 0 here. So the sequence is going to have 0, and then the cumulative sum of the mileage frequency. So we can see we've got 0, then 5, then 18, then 26, then 28, then 32. We'll see where that 0 comes in a second. Using the plot command, we can create a scatter plot. First thing is the x variable. So the x variable is going to be the breaks that we had before. So the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35. The y value is going to be the mileage dot cumulative frequency 0. You can see we've got a nice scatter plot showing that we've got nothing at 10. At 20, we've got about 18. At 25, we've got about 27. And 35, we've got 32. Again, this graph is a little bit boring. Certainly the labels are not that great. So we're going to redraw this, and we're going to put in some extra pieces. X label, mileage, MPG, in brackets. My Y label, the frequency. My title, mileage counts. And we'll see what that looks like. Now, because this is a cumulative frequency distribution, we might actually want to connect those points. So we can do that by using the lines command. So we use the line commands. Our X bit is going to be the brakes. Our Y is going to be the mileage dot cumulative frequency 0. And you can see it paints a nice line on our chart. Of course, all these graphs are in base R. We'll learn how to do some snazzier graphs when we talk about ggplot later on.